This means nothing right now, but estimated profit is in 7. It wasn't 11. He counts off to 7. I had to check. All right, on to the review. People, I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and this is part 20 of my hopefully never-ending series of rankings, reviews, and rankings of the Grateful Dead's live concert archival release series, Dave's Picks. I'm releasing them, reviewing them in order. I'm on number 20. I will talk about 20, and then at the end of my discussion of 20, I will show you physically, literally, a list on the screen of where 20 falls among the other 19. This is a complete show from December 9th, 1981. It is a patchwork job. There are moments when whatever soundboard they had, there were gaps in it, so they used what sounds like maybe a pretty decent audience tape, or maybe just a really old generation soundboard tape. You definitely lose volume and you lose a little like clarity, but you kind of still can know what happened. Kind of can still tell what's going on. It happens in Scarlet Begonias, and then it happens again in, I think the other one, or maybe the End of Space, the other one, somewhere around there. Happens a couple times, and I think early in the first set, there's another time, but it's not that bad of a distraction. I don't think it hinders the show, or it's not going to affect my ranking of the show. It is only the second show we've had released from the 80s. There was an 80s show that was released earlier that when I'm done reviewing this, it will rank higher on the list than this one. I think the set list from that 80s show is a little bit better, a little more exciting than this one. And only the second show we've had after 78. We've had no 79 shows, a couple 78 shows. We've mostly, with this Dave series, been in like the first half of the 70s. So it's nice to get some Midland again, some Brent Midland. And a part of me, like, in ranking this, like, I want to say it might have gotten a little boost because there are songs here that aren't played in the early 70s for obvious reasons. There's the Midland organ effect, Midland's backing vocals, that husky voice just sounds really nice in some of these songs. And so his addition in the way he sort of changes the sonic landscape, I kind of gave points to, but at the same time, this is an 81 show. It's a pretty good show. It's a pretty solid set list, has some pretty solid moments, some pretty fun moments. Has a really neat encore, something they didn't play all that often. They played a good couple dozen times, but a nice little treat as our closing encore. But for the most part, I would say it's a good, at times great show. It's one of those shows, like if I was there in person at the time, it's in Boulder, Colorado, by the way. If I was there in person at the time, I would have left this show really, really, really happy. But I'm not sure with all things out there, even the other 19 Dave's picks I've already reviewed, where I would, if I would revisit it all that often. We'll get to that in a little while. But here we go. First set is all of disc 1 leaks over to disc 2. The last 2 songs are on the beginning of disc 2. A pretty solid first set, well performed. I will say this about the entire show. There are 2 things that I think stand out. Jerry's guitar playing is on fire the entire time. Jerry is in the pocket in the best way possible. He seems to have this almost theme that runs through a lot of his solos where he's playing, they're not triplets, they're like little quadruplets where he like is kind of plays them over and over again at key points in certain solos to just like increase the intensity. Like I know Fire in the Mountain has this run where he's like, and then he just kind of increases it. And he has that same little like idea, that same little motif that kind of runs through some of these solos, but it's fantastic. It works incredibly well. So he's bringing his absolute best on here. Bob, I'm not going to say that Bob is coked out of his mind, but if someone said to me, or if I was told after listening to this show that Bob was coked out of his mind, I would go, oh, that makes sense, because he sounds like he's coked out of his mind. He is improvising lyrics like crazy after he forgets a whole bunch of them in Jack Straw. He is like throwing little, we'll be back, We're going to come back in 5 minutes and like in little interjections at the end of I Know You Writer, which is the first set closer that are normally not there. His performance in Around and Around and Good Lovin' and Satisfaction are over the top ridiculous. His singing in Estimated Profit is good. He's got this really strong He's Gone vocal jam that he adds. Like Bob is amped and energetic, and he definitely adds to the overall quality of this show. So those are two really good things. Plus, Midland's presence is just nice to hear after so many 70 shows and 69 shows that have been a part of this release series. So anyways, let's get to the first set. Opens up with a Cold Rain and Snow, just your typical large, upbeat, this is a big sound. The 81 band kind of has a big sound. It's a lot more going on here sonically than with those early 70s bands. We got a Jack Straw in which Bob flubs the lyrics pretty badly. The whole second half of the Jack Straw is just kind of awkward and not working, and it's your typical 80s dead making mistakes. But the playing's good. Jerry kind of redeems it a little bit. We get a slow Friend of the Devil. I don't like Brent's solo on this. He has this really cheesy electric piano keyboardy sound. It's not as sort of, I think, delicate and perfect as he would eventually come around to. Some of the sounds he would use later in like the 80s and 90s for this song, I think, are a little better than this. This is a little too synthy, a little too artificial for me, but it's a nice little Red Rooster. And then we get a great bird song. Everything about this bird song works. It's got a neat little intro. The jam is really good. We're not going out there to the crazy, like outer limits that we would go to, after a while. But this song had not been around very long, and it just kind of re-entered the rotation. So they're still trying to figure it out. It's in the middle of the first set instead of towards the end of the first set. But it's a really nice addition, and it's a really nice song to hear. So welcome back, bird song. Even though we've had some in the releases, chronologically, having it back in the repertoire after being gone for so long, it's really nice to hear a bird song. We get a Mama Mexicali. Mama tried it in Mexicali Blues. Get a Candyman, always down for the Candyman. We get a Cassidy that is a really nice jam in the Cassidy. I think Cassidy is one of those songs that really started to come into its own once Midland joined the band. That sort of post-vocal jam became a lot more interesting, and the band really started to kind of explore more ideas and go more places, and so you're starting to get a little bit of that. We get a Looks Like Rain, in which Bob keeps spelling the word rain, R-A-I-N, R-A-I-N, like looks like R-A-I-N. Glad that was a motif or a theme or a trick he abandoned, because it's fun, but it's kind of pointless and worthless. Kind of a silly little Bobism there. Bob the Rock Star. And that's the end of disc 1, and then disc 2 begins with the last 2 songs of the set, a China Rider. And it's a pretty good China Rider, not one of the best China Riders, but it's a fun China Rider. I think the Rider is maybe stronger than the actual China itself, but it's a good little first set closer. This would have been I think this would have been a nice song to keep as a first set closer. While I do love some Music Never Stops and the Let It Grows, and those length bird songs would eventually fall into this place, I think having this in their pocket as an option would have made set lists a little more diverse in the 80s and 90s, but it's a nice closer here. So a pretty good first set. Other than the Jack Straw, which is botched, it's some great, the bird song is really nice. The Candyman Cassidy are really good. China Rider's a solid first set closer. So pretty good stuff here. Nothing that I think is a must here that you absolutely have to check out, but some fun, good stuff. Second set, we got a Scarlet Fire to open up. The Scarlet has a really nice energy to it. It's really nice to hear this song, and sort of it's like, after starting when it started to pop up regularly in 77, it became bigger and bigger and more of an epic experience. You knew when they started this, something special was going to happen. It's a pretty good Scarlet, pretty good solo for Jerry. After the vocals, some nice energy. Again, it's one of those that feels like, man, I just wish it could go a little bit longer, but it's a good, healthy 10 minutes, and it's a good, nice Scarlet. And that goes into a Fire on the Mountain, which the first solo is intense but kind of short, and the closing solo on here is just ridiculous. This is one of those where Jerry's playing those like quadruplet, like just these weird little riffs, licks that he's like repeating all over the fretboard and kind of upping the intensity. before they make, like, you want it to go longer. It's a pretty short Fire on the Mountain. It's under 9 minutes long. It's just a short, sharp shock of intensity. It's fun to hear, good energy. But the closing solo, it just so abruptly goes into like the Scarlet Begonias closing where they go back into the Scarlet and end it. You're just like, I want more. It's a little bit kind of leaves you hanging. But then it ends, and then they go right into Estimated Profit. I don't even think there's an 11 count. Usually Bobby's like the 1, 2, 3, counts off 11 before they go into it. There's not even a time for an 11 count. They go right into it. Or is it a 7 count? I think it's an 11 count, right? But yeah, they go right into the Estimated Profit. Really nice Estimated Profit. Bob's in great form vocally. Nice energy throughout this. Good closing jam. And then that goes into a He's Gone. And the He's Gone might be the highlight of the entire show. The song itself is performed well. The vocal energy at the end when they start messing around with that He's Gone vocal jam is great. And then there is a section when it's mostly Brent on kind of an organ-y, keyboardy sound, Bob on rhythm guitar. I don't think Jerry's there. The drummers are like crazy hectic. And there's a really, really nice, lengthy sort of kind of spacey, like space rock type jam that's kind of led by Midland that is just fantastic. Like, I think some of the most interesting moments of the Dead are the post He's Gone jams, pre-drums in like 80, 81, 82. There's an excellent one, 13, right? Volume 13 of Dave's Picks has the He's Gone into Caution Spanish jam. And this show is from what? Earlier in 81. So He's Gone, that post He's Gone jam area is just really special in this era. And this is another example of that. Then we go into a drums, pretty short drums at like 6 minutes. We get a space. I've said this before, and I might just be in a space kick now. Another absolutely fantastic space. Just the ideas, the energy, just they're in this weird spot where Jerry's not yet fully MIDI, but there's still some interesting sounds going on, and Phil's doing some interesting sort of like bombs that he's dropping throughout it, and Midland's busy, and just a really nice space flavoring that kind of slowly intensifies towards the other one. And then we get a pretty nice The Other One jam into some pretty nice vocals, into another pretty nice jam. Not one of the most outrageous or like must hear the other ones, but some really good Other One energy. That goes into a Stella Blue. Another song that it just, every time I hear a Stella Blue, I mean, maybe Dave's doing nothing but picking the best of the best as far as the Stella Blues, because this is another absolutely fantastic Stella Blue. The middle solo is one of those just very carefully played, drawn out, like not rushed, intense solos. And then the closing one brings a little more of that Jerry sort of exploring energy. And then we get what is sounding like it's going to be the highlight of the show. And I've never, ever been frustrated that In Around and Around was cut short. But we get In Around and Around. And Bob is in a great mood. Like, his delivery is just a little like he's already like kind of stuttering the lyrics a tiny little bit. He's kind of just putting a little emphasis on the wrong syllables. It's really, really good. And like, I'm super excited for the ending of this. But then 3.5 minutes into it, they go right into a Good Lovin'. And at first, my heart is broken because I don't want to hear a Good Lovin' after this. But then the Good Lovin' actually turns out to be a pretty good Lovin'. Bob is, again, he's stuttering like crazy and doing like a My Generation vocal delivery. He throws in some Love Light references to Turn On Your Light. They had brought that back about a month and a half earlier, 2 months earlier in Amsterdam at that infamous Milk Veg show when they brought Love Light back. It would now start to slowly seep into the repertoire and become more and more of a regular thing. But here Bob is throwing it in the midst of a Good Lovin', and it's fun, and it's a great way to end the show. And again, if I was there, I think I would go, dude, did you hear those Love Light references? This is so much fun. So it's a really good Lovin'. And then for the encore, we get a U.S. Blues, and we get one of only, I think, 30 that they ever did, 31. I Can't Get No Satisfaction. And this works. Like, on paper, it's like, no, man, they shouldn't be doing this. But Bob, he's doing his best. He's having fun. He does a little audience like participation at the end. It's just a nice, long, fun show closing Rolling Stones cover. Just really, really good. So yeah, Again, nothing in this show that I say is a must hear. I like this show. When I listen to it, it's a good show. I don't think I'm ever bored. Couple sound issues where they have some patchwork that they throw in some other, sources to cover up the gaps, but it's a good listen. Excellent show. The only problem is, as we look at the rankings right there, is that there's a lot of really, really, really good shows that Dave has released. And so this falls all the way at number 12. So it's in the bottom half. Right behind that 69 show, mainly because that 69 show has some bonus material that is absolutely fantastic, that definitely elevates that above it. That 76, I just like the set list. Again, that has some good stuff. And I think the 80 show that I referenced earlier from like a year earlier just has an all-around better set list than the 81 show. So I prefer that one to it. But again, not a bad show. I think everything from 7 through 17 are great, at times super great. It's only those bottom 3 where I struggle with a little bit at times for a variety of reasons, though they are good shows. But 12 is respectable. But again, it's a weird choice to be released. I want to say it's definitely released because of that satisfaction, that rarity. And maybe Bob was coked out of his mind, and so like, hey, let's get one of those Bob Coke shows on here and just show what it's like when he's going off all over the place. Yeah, but a fun show and a good listen. I have no issues with it. But yeah, that's it. That's what let me know if you listen to this show, if you have the show, if you check it out, if you think I nailed it, if you think I didn't nail it, all that kind of stuff. You know how comments work, man. Keep me honest, keep yourself honest, whatever. I don't know. But anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, like, and more importantly, go listen to music, people, because that's the point of all these channels. Bye. Peace. Happy holidays. Take care.